Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. I thought I would take a break from Christmas and I put together a little birthday card, but I am using some of the paper that was carried over from last year from the Feels Like Frost designer series paper. It's a 6x6 pack that we had last year. It's got beautiful papers in it. And I made one that really could be a fast and beautiful. And so it's a very quick little card, but I think very pretty and not hard to do at all. So let's just get started. Okay, here is my card. And I've been looking for an excuse to use this beautiful, what's it called? The metallic mesh ribbon. I've used it in my online class, which I'm happy to announce is finally up. And so I have my online class that will start right now. And it's a fairly quick sign up. The deadline for signing up is the 10th of November. So we've just got 9 or 10 days here. And I do use some of this mesh ribbon there. You'll see all of the details on my blog. And if you decide to do the class, there's 3 options. One that includes the stamp set and the die set. And the stamp set and die set this time is the Poinsettia bundle. Poinsettia Petals bundle. And if you already have it, then you can do option 2, which is just the product package plus the video and the PDF. And if you've ever taken a class from me, you know that the product package is very generous and the details are, it's pretty hard not to be able to put your card together. Very extensive. So that card class is up and I'm ready to go with it. All right, today, however, we are making this card and I made it a birthday card. There's really no reason you couldn't make this a Christmas card if you wanted to. And so what I did to make this card, I used a thick Whisper white base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4, and that's my base. Then I have a piece of this beautiful DSP, which comes from the Feel Like Frost 6x6 package, and there's all kinds. In fact, there's several papers that you could do this card with. There's a blue that is in there, and then there's this beautiful one with a pine that would work really well. There's several in here that have kind of a blue cast, I think, that would work with this color combination. I ended up using, there's another one that would go really well. I ended up using this sheet here, and I cut this 3 3/4 by 5. And so you're left with quite a generous piece on this side here that's going to allow you to do something else kind of fun with that. And then I cut off this part here at the top that had less of a pattern on it. So that is the paper that I'm using. And then I have 2 pieces of this Misty Moonlight, I love this blue, that are 4 by 5 1/4, one for the outside and one for the inside. Then I have another piece of Whisper White that is 3 3/4 by 5 for the inside. And I have 2 pieces of Misty Moonlight that are 3/8 of an inch by 5 1/4 inches. And let's see, then I'm using my Misty Moonlight ink. There's my 2 lengths of the mesh ribbon that I'm going to use on my card. And then I used a couple of dies. And the dies I used, one was from the Poinsettia Petals dies, the Poinsettia dies, and it was this sprig. and I used that sprig on some silver. So you need a scrap of silver, enough to cut out 1 or 2 of these sprigs. And then this die is a little branch of leaves, and any old branch of leaves will do. I took this one from the Curvy Dies. And I like the idea of it, and you can see here, I'll bring it up so you can see it. The thing about this particular die is that it also embosses a little stem in the leaves, and I kind of like the way that looked, and I wanted something that was long and thin and pretty small. So that is what I used. And then let's see, the only other thing I used was a little bit of twine, and it is this twine, and right now we're not remembering where it comes from. It's one that has green with it, and the Misty Moonlight, and I used that to tie my bow right down here to make my little bouquet. And I just need a little piece of twine. I doubled mine up and did a double bow here, but a single bow will do just as well. Anyway, that's probably all we need from that one. So I'm going to cut that off, and that piece is also ready to go. Now, as is my practice, I have already cut my pieces. So I have a couple of those sprigs cut, like the berries, and then I have cut some of these leaves in silver, and I've cut some of them in the blue glimmer paper that we have, and then I cut a couple in Misty Moonlight, so that I have, the way I work often is that I have way more than I need to do what I need to do, but then I have options if I change my mind about something. So you need a scrap of the Misty Moonlight and a scrap of the silver. I don't know where mine is right now, but you need a scrap of the silver. There it is. And this was a panel that I had cut out from some other project and just used it to cut out a couple of my pieces. Okay, so let's just get started here. The first thing we can do is we can adhere this panel to our Misty Moonlight base, and I'm going to use my seal to put some glue down. It doesn't seem to like this paper. Okay, so here we go on this, and I'm going to center that on here. Now, in addition to the other decoration, one of the things I did was I used my Wink of Stella pen, and I covered all of these little bloom heads here on this piece of paper. I thought it kind of dressed up what we were doing here, and I went ahead and covered them even though they might be a little blurry, just to add some sparkle a couple of different places on my paper. And I'm kind of turning it to the side, and I hope you can see that. I'll turn it in the light, and it does make for a kind of a fun, unexpected sparkle on your paper. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is to adhere this piece of paper down onto my card, and that one goes from the top of the Misty Moonlight all the way to the bottom of it. on that card right along there. Then on the back side, I'm using my dot runner here to put down some glue. And then this piece of ribbon, isn't that pretty? I just think it's such a pretty ribbon. I folded it in half, and that makes it just about right. Of course, I put all of my glue on the wrong side. All right, well, I'll add some glue to this side. I'm going to need it all pretty soon anyway. There we go. And what I did was I just folded this ribbon in half and I anchored it. What I want it to do is go right over this piece of blue. It shows up a little bit better on the colored cardstock than it did on the DSP. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty on the DSP as well, but it just shows up a little bit better on the blue. So I folded this in half. Once I got that piece anchored, I pulled it pretty tight and then anchored this piece on the back side. And then I found that if I just run my glue along the pieces here, that helps it stick down. So there we go. In fact, I'm going to use my silicone mat because that's real sticky now. And put that here. And then I'm going to do my stamping. I took 2 stamps from Here's a Card. There's my happy birthday stamp. And then on the inside of this, I did that same thing. I put the blue down, the ribbon, a few of these pieces, and then this sentiment. I can't begin to count all the times we've laughed together. I have several really good friends with birthdays coming up, and that is just apropos for where we are as a group. So I'm going to take my happy birthday and get it real inked up here. In fact, that's kind of a messy job. Let me clean that up so I get it off of the edges and tap that down on that ink pad again. Lots of tapping so I get plenty of ink. And then I stamp that right up here on this blank spot on the designer series paper. Happy birthday, there we go. And I tried in previous iterations of this as I was designing this one to put that on an oval and put backings on it. And in the end, I really didn't like any of it. And so I decided the simplest thing to do is just stamp it right on the designer series paper, and there it is. So I'm really happy with the way that turned out. Now I'm going to add some additional glue to the back of my card. And then we can put this panel in place on the card front before we get any further. So I'm going to take this piece before I add any of the other embellishments and put that on the front of my card and center that here. And there we go. Isn't that just a pretty card? I think it's beautiful for winter birthdays. I just love the way that came out. Okay, so then these 2 pieces, it's the same thing. This gets adhered to this, then this piece, then the ribbon. So we'll just go ahead and get that prepared and all ready to go as well. So I can just go ahead and put my seal on the back of my white panel. This is the one that's 3 3/4 by 5. And I'm going to center that on my Misty Moonlight. There we go. And then, let's see, I think the next thing I need to do is, let me make sure I'm putting that glue, well, I guess at this point it doesn't matter, on the right side here. And then I'm going to fold my paper. Well, first I'm going to put my piece in place here. So let me get my seal put on the back of my strip of paper and get that placed on my card. And I'm not leaving much of a margin, just ever so slight an amount here, so I can just see the white there, and then cover that piece from top to bottom. It goes from the top of the blue to the bottom, and that's the way that's going to go into my card. Then I need to make sure that I've got plenty of glue on the back here. I'm going to fold my ribbon in half, and I'm going to set that so that it sits right here on the front on this little piece of blue, and I'm going to anchor that on the back, get that put in place, and then draw that pretty tightly, because there's really no glue holding this in place except what's on the back. But I found that if you anchor it well and then pull it tight across here, it sticks pretty darn well. Okay, and then once it's stuck on the back, to use my glue here to further stick it down to the card. There we go. All right, now this piece is ready to go on the inside of my card, centered right here. And there we've got our piece on there. Let's see, it looks like that ribbon is trying to come loose there. I'm going to just tuck that under with my pokey tool. Okay, all right, there we go. All right, now it's a matter of creating the little scene or the little bouquet that I want here. And I wanted to slide a piece of this ribbon here. This is the twine, I mean. So let me cut this piece of twine in half. And before I get too much further, I want to get that underneath this piece of ribbon. Just push that through and get it put in place right down here. And that way I've got my pieces that I can tie around to hide some of the stems here. And what I did to make this stick down, and it helps the ribbon stay put as well, is I used some glue dots. And what I did was I took my glue dots and I folded them over on themselves so that I got a fairly narrow little piece of glue dot, and I put that on the back of one of the leaves, and it's real sticky. So I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to skip a couple and come up to here, and then I'm going to put a final one on this top leaf. So I'm only really using 3. So there we go, getting my glue dots there and putting that on that last piece. Now this first one I set going up, mostly up this mesh ribbon, but those glue dots that I put down and in place are going to go through that mesh and onto the blue cardstock underneath, and it's going to help hold that in place. So there we go. I've got my first one done. Then I have this pretty This one's going to be mostly on the card, so I'm just going to use snail on it and get that put in place right there. And then the blue that matches the card, same thing, mostly on the card, so I think snail will be sufficient. There we go. And then I cut off this little sprig here, and I cut this off here, so that this little piece is going to go right here and kind of go all the way across all of those pieces. And I'm only going to put glue on the bottom so that it moves just a little bit with the card. So put that in place right here. Have one going this way, one towards the middle, and one little piece off this way. I think that looks pretty good. On this one, I think I put another piece of the glimmer paper on here. But on this one, I'm not sure I need it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this piece of twine and I'm going to tie a knot right down here on the bottom of my card and the bottom of all of these branches. And it's fine with me that it pulls the ribbon in, because I think that looks like then it really is tied. There we go. Now, I'm going to try and tie a double bow here. When I was doing this on the sample card, I got myself all tied in a knot. So I'm going to try and grab those two strings and pull them through. All right, so there's my bow. And then, of course, all of the fiddling that one does with bows. And getting my bow pulled down just a little bit, but because I don't want those loops to be too big. But I love having these little ends here at different lengths kind of hanging off. So there we go. I've got my bow put in place there. Now on the inside, I've got that same notion where I'm going to add some glue dots and then a little bit of snail to a couple of the other sprigs here. A little bit tortured, but we got it done. And then I just have my little bit of stamping to do on the inside here. I can't begin to count all the times we've laughed together. There we go. And I put this at an angle right up here in the corner. And there we go. All right. So that is my project. I need to add just a little bit of bling to the front. I used my regular rhinestones, and I think I put 5 different rhinestones on here. So just randomly around the card, just so long as it's an odd number. There we go. That is my card and project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. Joining Stampin' Up! Is always a good idea. Let's see, this month is the middle of a quarter, so you have, if you were to join now, you have until the end of March to make your first minimum, and you start out with a 20% discount. So if you want to chat about it, just give me a call or text me or email me. All of my contact information is always listed below the video. My prize draw for this month is a $60 shopping spree on me. And so all you have to do to get yourself in the drawing is to put an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. And be sure to check out on my blog under online classes my November card class, which has got a pretty short window on it. I'm putting the deadline at November the 10th, and it's using the Poinsettia Petals bundle, and it is making 8 cards, 2 each of 4 different designs that are exclusive designs. I will not be doing videos on those cards. If you take the class, you're the only ones that will get those particular cards. And I do use some of this mesh ribbon, so it's kind of fun. So that's it for me today. I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!